how money was, and we're going to, well, that's a bit of a surprise, but I'm taking you to a very, very special and beautiful place for our lunch today. Which brings me to ask, is there anybody that doesn't eat at all red mullet, so fish, or calamari? Both, you don't eat both of them, right?
No, I'll eat calamari.
You eat calamari. Anybody else not eating mullet or fish or calamari? No. Okay. There will. Sorry. Okay, that means more fish for us. And usually they give an option, so if somebody doesn't eat and is not full, they do an omelette. Norma.
Calamari will be.
Calamari and starters. Alright, right. By the way, at this specific restaurant, the bread is amazing, the olive oil is amazing, the tomato salad is amazing. The surprise is the location. And I'm not going to spoil it. It's just, it's going to be a nice highlight of our day. Look at that beach on the right. Yeah, emerald. Very beautiful. There was a question about about the tower complex that we visited. Around 2,000 people were down there when they met to discuss about the revolution. About your question. 2,000 people plus the local captains. So just to give you an idea of what this area was and why all the tower houses, right? The first Maniads, they were descendants from the Byzantine Empire, right? And they considered themselves royal. So they considered themselves that they were royal descendants of the Byzantine, and they would even call each other Koronide. Corona is crown. Even today, when I call to this restaurant that we're going, the person calls me Corona. They call each other crown, which I think is quite nice and particular. Now, they had a lot of power, right? And they had their society organized with clans. So there were clans of very, very powerful families, and they would build all these tower houses. It was a symbol of status, obviously, but it was also to protect them from invasions. Now, most of the invasions were from the sea. So that's why they were very tall, because they were watchtowers also. They would watch the sea and see whether they had pirate invasions. All this area we had very, very high pirate activity. Of course, that was before the steam boats. Yes, time period. In the early 15th century, but it dated even way back that. But all that peak was 15, 16, 17, and then they did some rebuilding of the old tower houses. Another very characteristic thing is that the Maniads, they would use what was available, and that was rocks. Yeah, so everywhere there were rocks, they would use rocks to make the terraces. Because it was a very rugged landscape, they would use all these terraces to be able to grow their olive trees, etc. And a big issue usually, that was a big issue for people to fight against each other, was ownership, land ownership, okay? So another characteristic thing of these clans were the vendettas because of an argument. They had a very strong character, right? They were very strong opinion. So if they disagreed about ownership, usually the conversation would end up like, I'm gonna kill you for that. And it was not just metaphorically. They killed each other just because they would disagree for ownership. Or if somebody did not keep their word. So the word and the honor for a man especially would be something very important. If you were not a man of your own word, you would get killed, and then the vendetta would be that they would kill all the rest of the family. Honestly. Because they were like that and men of honor, and they fought, they were very feisty. For a woman, it was a very, very big pride to be mother of a son. So if you didn't have a son, you would kept trying until you would get a boy. For that reason, if you were asked how many children do you have, usually the mother would say, I have 3 and 2 girls. So when you say how many children, you mean how many boys. And then it was very sexist and discriminating. But if you didn't have a boy, you were not meant to be a very proud mother. Although there was this nice bonding with the boys, a controversy would be like that the mothers also would be very prepared that the boy could be killed in a battle or in piracy. So usually they would die young, and the mothers would have a very they would have a lament for the boys. This grieving would last only 1 day. So the mothers would be very tough. Maybe they would be in pain in the inside, but the whole grieving thing would last only 1 day, and then the next day they would get back to their lives, back to normal. I will tell you some stories about the piracy and the vendettas. Now, Mr. Stavros was at the museum. Every time I go there, he chats to me, usually he wants to tell me about the architecture and how it molds with the landscape. So it's not something that is very foreign, right? It's perfectly in a perfect harmony with the landscape. In this area, the family, right, they had these towers, but they had one person that was even at higher altitude overwatching the sea. So the second he would see somebody attacking them, they would light a fire, and through lighting up fires they would communicate. And just like that, in not even an hour's time, the different watchtowers and the different families would have an emergency that they were being under attack. This area actually is one of the areas that the Ottomans never managed to capture. Also the Ottomans were a bit, who would want to go to a very mountainous, rugged land filled with very feisty people just to grow rocks, right? They did try though as different nationalities. So we had Maltese pirates, different nationality pirates that